Welcome to Before the Pitch, where you can love New York baseball no matter what shade of blue you're wearing. I am Billy, and in our last video, we were talking about how we would plan to expand the MLB for the playoffs and for the regular season. But in this video, we're going to be talking about what cities and what teams we could relocate or even add to expand the MLB a little bit further. So without further ado, we're going to get right into that. But first, we're going to start with the two teams who are in talks with the MLB to potentially move their franchises. Those two teams being the Tampa Bay Rays and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now, keep in mind these two teams will be used throughout the course of this video creatively, where we think they could keep their names or even potentially change to benefit the MLB as a whole. So city number one, let's get these guys out of the way to start. We're talking about the Montreal Expos. Now, we know Tampa Bay is in talks with the MLB to spend part of the season in Montreal and part of the season in Tampa Bay. This doesn't really seem like a logical plan, nor does it seem to be beneficial for the franchise as a whole. Now, with that said, we also feel that Montreal isn't really sustainable for a permanent franchise anymore. It would be much more of a nostalgia trip and not really beneficial to anyone, the fans, or the city to put a permanent franchise in the city, as we just end up back in the same spot that we were with the Expos to begin with, where you would see a large amount of success at the beginning and it would just taper off over the years, leading to another franchise that would have to be moved anyway. So, city number two, we're talking about Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, North Carolina as a whole has always been a hot spot for baseball. Now, with that said, we know that the closest MLB franchise is the Atlanta Braves, but they're not so close that they would interfere with Charlotte creating its own more permanent franchise in a city that is rich and enthusiastic about baseball and has such a long history in this country. So we were wrestling with two names, one being the Charlotte Queensmen, but we ultimately decided that the best suited for this team would be the Queen City Captains. Charlotte is nicknamed the Queen City, named after Queen Charlotte of England, the wife of King George. Yes, that King George. And this shows a strong tie to the United States and America as a whole, which is all so well suited for baseball. Charlotte's represented by two different flags, one being blue and one being green. Now, you'll notice that both of these colors are appropriately represented in this team's colors. Now, with that said, you'll also notice there is a little bit of gold that is there to symbolize the first gold rush in the United States history. Up until later Western expansion, the Carolinas were actually the largest gold producer in the United States. So the name Captains refers to Captain James Jack, who is a notable figure from Charlotte during the American Revolution. With that said, if you want to know more about Captain James Jack, please look up the Mecklenburg Resolve. It's actually quite an interesting tale. Since both of us here are NASCAR fans, we think it's only appropriate that if a team based out of Charlotte would retire the number 3. Number 3 referring to the late, great Dale Earnhardt. City number 3, Las Vegas, Nevada. It's the no-brainer choice for the MLB here. You've got multiple teams across multiple different leagues moving to this city, and it just seems to be the number one choice across the board for a new franchise. So if the Diamondbacks are planning on moving, why not Las Vegas? You just take that A and flip it upside down into a V, and you got yourself a perfect logo. On top of that, I don't think anyone would be complaining if you keep the coolest name in baseball for that team. So if the Rays decide to leave, you can keep that name as well. Since it is a desert and the sun is everywhere, it just kind of fits perfectly. Now, the logo, you can take that little sunburst and flip it into that fabulous Las Vegas sign and use that old classic Devil Rays font on top of it, and just makes that perfect for this team. So if this is a true expansion team and not just a relocation of a franchise, we could go with a name such as the Sin City Snake Eyes. Now, Sin City referring to the nickname of Las Vegas, and Snake Eyes, well, what else is Las Vegas famous for than a couple of dice rolling across the table? And well, if you got a problem with how many snake teams we'd have them, I just have to ask you, well, there's a few birds out there, and I think we got a few socks out there as well. So city number 4. Now this is Scott's favorite, and we are talking about Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Now, Vancouver is the most densely populated city in Canada, which just makes it a perfect fit if you're talking about the numbers. Being in Vancouver, this creates a natural and much needed rival for the Seattle Mariners, and it adds to just the clout of the Pacific Northwest. Having another Canadian team creates a dynamic opportunity for the MLB to market this team whenever they would play the Blue Jays. We chose Vancouver over Portland, Oregon because we believe this marketing plan would benefit the MLB as a whole much greater than implementing another American team into the already saturated market. And for the name, Sky's incredibly proud of this one. We have come up with the name the Vancouver Voyagers. So the inspiration for this name comes from George Vancouver himself, in which the city is named after. Now, he was an officer in the British Royal Navy, which is why you see the British flag in the logo itself. The MLB has been trying to tap into this market for a little while now, especially recently with the London series. Now, this would create a unique opportunity for the MLB to draw in new fans. So our final city on our list is my personal favorite, and that city would be Nashville, Tennessee. Now, this is a city which has already seen success with multiple other major franchises from the NFL to the NHL, and would be a great spot right in the middle of the country to benefit a large group of people without really interfering with any other city. The name that we chose for this city is the Music City Suite. Now, myself as a musician, this is a little bit of a sweet spot in my heart, no pun intended. It's not sweet as S-W-E-E-T, it is S-U-I-T-E, referring to a short group of musical pieces. So the logo we designed is a treble clef flipped around so that you can see the S, and a baseball bat used as the center stem. Now, this invokes a real old-time baseball feel, and it's something that we feel that this franchise can truly embrace. So with this motif, the franchise can bring in country music stars and really embrace that idea of country and music and baseball combined, which is something that not a lot of teams in MLB can really tap into. And what better way to embrace walk-up songs than to be able to play Ring of Fire when someone comes up to bat, or Walk the Line as they take ball 4. And what better way to market this team than being able to say, that swing was sweet. So those are our top choices for MLB expansion franchises. We would personally love to see a team south of the border, whether that's Mexico or Cuba or Puerto Rico. We all think these would be wonderful places for baseball to expand, but unfortunately right now it just doesn't seem feasible. But hold on, stay tuned. We have an even crazier idea for how to make this a truly an international pastime and not just America's pastime. So keep an eye out. We're gonna have part 3 of this video coming out, where we're gonna talk about everything we discussed in part 1 and everything we discussed in this video here. And this is all gonna be about how we will realign the MLB to make a stronger, better MLB for the foreseeable future. So I'm Billy from Before the Pitch, and we want you all to like and subscribe, and I really hope you enjoyed this video.